In the country of Argentina, cowboy life has scarcely changed over the past 3 centuries. The Gaucho is a hero here. For most people, he is a legendary figure that is larger than life. But in the far reaches of the country, there are still men for whom the Gaucho is more than a legend. For them, it is their life. They are the Gauchos of Argentina. The cowboy life of the Gaucho came to Argentina from Spanish culture. It created a unique type of men who were as hardy and self-reliant as the animals for which they cared. The word gaucho means outcast, or one who doesn't belong to a specific society or group. There are as many kinds of gauchos as there are varied terrains in Argentina. There are gauchos on the soft, flat pampas of Corrientes, on the windswept plains of Patagonia, and in the wooded hills of Salta. Don Jose Anzola, a 76-year-old horseman, seems to be the classic gaucho, and one who treasures his residence in a remote region of Corrientes. He believes solitude helps to keep gaucho life in its purest form.
Si no pudiera vivir en el campo,
if I couldn't live in the campo, the countryside, an unthinkable thought. I don't know what I'd do.
According to Don Jose, he would rather live in a poor little house in the country than in a palace in the city. Don Jose's 154-square-mile ranch in Corrientes is far from everything, so Don Jose depends entirely on his horses to travel. As a result, he and his 3 sons spend much of their time finding and catching the wild horses that run free in the countryside. The horses must then be broken so that they'll allow people to ride them.
Breaking a horse is a slow process, taking more than a year. This is something the horse learns to put up with.
The gaucho explains that the horse must adjust to using a saddle and reins, so the riders aren't thrown off later. The treatment seems cruel, but according to Don Jose, it's actually not. The training, he says, often seems harsher than it is.
We love our horses, and in the end they love us in return. This is the traditional way of training a horse in Argentina, the gaucho way.
Being a gaucho, though, is more than a life of solitude and caring for horses and cattle. The gaucho way of life has its own strict code of ethics. Hospitality and respect for others are as much a part of this lifestyle as the art of breaking horses. Argentina is nearly the last place where this code of ethics and the demanding lifestyle of the gaucho still exist. The country is home to nearly 150,000 gauchos who are very much a part of the national identity. There are gauchos in all parts of the country, even more than 1,200 miles south of Buenos Aires, on the edge of Antarctica in Patagonia. The harsh terrain of this region has its own type of gaucho as well. Here, the gauchos raise sheep, not cattle, and even more surprisingly, many speak English. Many of the ancestors of Patagonian gauchos were immigrants from Scotland. Several of these settlers came to the area during the 19th century, including the ancestors of Eduardo Halliday and his father Jimmy. These 2 gauchos run a ranch in Patagonia, and for them, this strange terrain seems like the perfect place to live. The Hallidays enjoy living in the region for a number of reasons. For Jimmy, the most refreshing aspect about living in Patagonia is that there's space everywhere so he can see far in all directions. The land is also rich, he says, and produces everything that he and his family need. Life on the plains of Patagonia is difficult, even harsh, but the gauchos here have learned how to adjust and succeed. Eduardo has lived his entire life on the family ranch and has learned the traditional ways from his father. The goal of every gaucho is self-reliance, and these gauchos of Patagonia are no different. Because the ranch is so remote, father and son have to utilize everything they have available. This also means they don't abandon anything quickly, and often use and reuse everything they have, including their bags and their boots. After all, it's a long way to go to buy new ones. Gauchos are experts at adjusting to their surroundings. Here they've learned to use a local weapon called a boleadora. Made of leather and small stones, boleadoras are still used to hunt rhea. Pursuing the small flightless birds is no problem, but hitting them can be tough. As the gauchos fly like the wind along the plains on their strong horses, the rheas run swiftly ahead of them. It's an exciting chase, but the rheas get away, this time. About 1,800 miles north of Patagonia is the region of Salta. Here, the stony hills and rough terrain have produced yet a different kind of gaucho. The gauchos here were once fierce soldiers for Argentina, and they won recognition and respect in the Argentine War of Independence from Spain. They're famous for their huge leather chaps and red ponchos, and often celebrate their proud traditions in an annual parade. One of the best horsemen in the area is Rudecindo Campos. Rudecindo loves being a gaucho, and he says that it's the life he's always wanted.
In life, there are all kinds of people, engineers, doctors, and gauchos. I knew I had to choose one or the other. I have always had a gaucho soul, and I like being a gaucho.
However, choosing the life of a gaucho means more than just working with horses. Just as it is in Corrientes, a strict code of ethics and principles is essential to the gaucho lifestyle in Salta as well.
It's not only knowing how to catch an animal with a rope, use a saddle, or ride a horse. It's also about being good and kind. When you ask a gaucho a favor, he must not refuse. He does it.
At times, it's difficult to make enough money working as a gaucho. In order to survive, Rudecindo must work at a part-time job so he can continue training horses. He specializes in training a strong little horse from the area called a criollo. It's one of the few animals that can round up cattle in this rough terrain covered with thorns. To protect themselves from the environment, horse and rider rely on their special leather chaps. The thick leather protects the pair from injuries as they round up the last of the cattle. In Salta, each time the gauchos successfully return the cattle safely back to the ranch, there's a lively fiesta, a celebration in which women have always had an important role. Rudecindo's wife, who comes from the city, talks about life on the ranch.
It's very difficult to adapt to the slower pace of the campo. In the city you live faster and you're less attentive to nature. We've lost that in the city. We've lost some of our humanity, which my husband hasn't lost. He's not caught up in the trivia of everyday life. You can really get consumed by small things, and you forget what's important.
If I go into town for 2 weeks, I can't wait to get home. To the horses, to the smell of the countryside and the wet earth after a rain. I love this life.
In the end, the story of today's gaucho may be one of adaptation to climate, to landscape, and to traditional ways of life that sustain them.
For Argentina, it's very important for people to treasure this proud and honorable legacy. We must be sure that whatever else happens to us, we never lose our heritage, our gaucho way of life.
Don Jose is not alone in his dream. The proud and self-reliant gauchos of Corrientes, Patagonia, and Salta are all helping to retain the traditional lifestyle of the gauchos of Argentina.